Literal reading implies a popular reading habit where reader intends to understand the literal meaning of the text. Literal reading never aims to dig the text deep to explore the inner meaning of the text. Reader only comes across the landmarks in the text like word, sentence, description, etc. Reader only intends to build a meaning on the facade. Critical opinion is never called for. Interpretative is not felt as something essential. The deeper implication of the text is left unattended. Critical reading is the third level of reading. Reader does not get satisfied himself or herself only with event of text. Reader familiarizes himself or herself with primary story through formal reading. Later, reader intends to knowledge causing issues. While a reader haunts for explanation, he or she might have following ideas in mind: identification of purpose of author, deeper realization of the main theme, look for the reason of the narrated story, origin of event and find of event are to be comprehended. Bring out the uniformity of language, realize the writing style of the text. Reading of one level is different in output with others. One level of reading may produce one unique meaning, so variety in the level of reading rewards various meaning and can generate distinguished emotion. This entire process can be termed as level of reading. Levels of reading on the basis of ease are generally subcategorized as literal reading, interpretative reading, critical reading, and creative reading. Interpretative reading is second level of reading in terms of its critical circumference. Previous knowledge of reader plays decisive role. With previous knowledge, reader aims to go beyond the horizon of literal meaning. A reader must have previous knowledge on the respective subject or field. Experience and previous knowledge help reader to explore undiscovered horizon of new meaning of the text. In interpretative reading, it is expected that reader must be learned and wise enough. Creative reading is an experimental branch of reading. Reader enjoys larger freedom of thinking and analyzing the text. Reader has the full liberty to exercise his or her imagination. Reader has the freedom of imitating newer viewpoints to understand the text. Creative reading does not allow the reader to achieve deeper level of knowledge. Creative reading assures two things: it keeps the curiosity of reader static. Reader gets chance to experiment with original ideas. Intensive reading is conducted with purpose of attaining deeper meaning of the text. Professor Brown has defined the following: intensive reading is the reading in detail with specific aim and task. Intensive reading affirms some certain purpose which are presupposed. Proper conduction of intensive reading largely counts on the deeper study of the word, meaning, and grammar. Extensive reading habit: reader intends to read larger subject area to have general comprehension in a stipulated time scale. Extensive reading is chiefly conducted with purpose of extracting pleasure. Carroll and Carson have provided a complete definition of extensive reading. Extensive reading is the rapid reading of large quantities of material or longer reading for general understanding. Oral reading is a physical as well as mental process. A reading in oral reading reads loudly whatever written object he or she avails at hand. Loud pronunciation, word selection, and cognitive continues simultaneously. Ashok Gupta defined oral reading as follows: reading aloud involves some process which are partly mental and partly physical. In silent reading, a book is read noiselessly but meaningfully. Silent reading is completely cognitive process of reading. A reader during silent reading does not follow every word or phrase of the text. Ashok Gupta defined silent reading involves all the psychophysical processes as aloud reading. Skimming is a quicker reading strategy to read multiple objects at a time. Skimming enables a reader to gather overall ideas of a subject quickly. It does not allow reader to achieve depth of knowledge and concerned subject. But a complete view of whole is performed. If skimming is practiced long on regular basis, a complete view is formed on the related subject without insight. Scanning is another quicker reading strategy. Scanning is directed to meet a goal. On specific occasions, scanning is followed to quickly explore a particular object. We look at a phone number of a friend at a glance and we remember quickly. Scanning is conducted while following a particular heading of newspaper. Structural aspect of the text that we scan is so important. In day to day we practice scanning often without having theoretical knowledge. To advantage of intensive reading. Intensive reading may serve the following purposes. Knowledge of grammar is refined and purified through right condition of intensive reading. The linguistic knowledge of reader is equally enriched through intensive reading. Intensive reading habit may serve specific goal. To reach the goal, in intensive reading, word meaning grammar are deeply and analytically studied. Two disadvantages of silent reading are: silent reading requires a lot of attention and concentration, so if the reader does not have the ability to concentrate or concentration during reading, silent reading requires a lot of attention and concentration, so if the reader does not have the ability to concentrate and concentrate during reading, then the reading is interrupted. Due to the silent reading, through silent reading, mistakes are not noticed in the student's reading. Silent reading requires a lot of attention and concentration, so if the reader does not have the ability to concentrate during reading, then the reading is interrupted. Difference between skimming and scanning. Skimming is a quicker reading strategy. Scanning is quicker reading strategy. No, skimming is a quick reading strategy. Scanning is quicker reading strategy. Skimming assures an overall impression on many things. Scanning confirms one impression on one topic. Skimming allows variety of knowledge. Scanning cannot give variety. Skimming has many purposes to meet. Scanning serves only one purpose. What is oral reading? Oral reading is a physical as well as mental process. A reader in oral reading reads loudly whatever written object he or she avails at hand. Loud pronunciation, word selection and cognitive continue simultaneously. Ashok Gupta has defined oral reading as follows: reading aloud involves some process which are partly mental, partly physical. He continues, a reader has to recognize the visual forms of word, then he has to interpret these words into sound. Primarily during loud reading there continues recognition of visual forms. Later words are understood as meaningful unit. After that words are understood as sound. As loud reading is entirely performed through oral performance, it is also known as oral reading. Advantages of oral reading. Benefits in the field of education are: through oral reading we can examine reading skill of the reader. Oral reading affirms the reading habit of the reader. We can comprehend the quicker reading skill of concerned reader. Readers are engaged in lengthy pronunciation process. We have the scope to examine the intonation of each distinctive reader. Reader has the chance to develop reading as an art. The use of punctuation mark can be improved. Individual distinctiveness can be followed up through proper training in the matter of pronunciation. Disadvantages of oral reading. Time consuming method. This reading is more time consuming than other reading method. Again, this reading takes more labor than the student. Feeling lacking of attention. Student cannot always insist in oral reading. More mental concentration is not desirable for this lesson. Cannot always insist in oral reading. More mental concentration is not desirable for this lesson. creating noise, especially in lower level classes. If the student read together singly or jointly, then a noise and environment is created in the class. As a result, the ability of the other student to think and the learning process is interrupted. Tedious. Students are tired of being too tired to read, excessive labor, uh, as at the same time, due to the use of obstacles and eyes, physical fatigue comes and mind becomes tired. Oral reading. The reading that produces the sound is called an oral reading. Silent reading. The reading that does not produce sound is called silent reading. Oral reading. At primary level, oral reading is more important. At this stage, oral reading excels learning. The silent reading is used more in secondary level. Silent reading is useful in thoughtful deep lessons, more time consuming, less reading speed. In oral reading, more things or ideas can be acquired at short time. In silent reading, attention and concentration are less desirable. In oral reading, attention and concentration are very desirable. In silent reading, oral reading is recommended in children's class. Silent reading is recommended in library. Silent reading. In silent reading, a book is read noiselessly but meaningfully. Silent reading is completely cognitive process of reading. A reader during silent reading does not follow every word or phrase of text. Ashok Gupta has defined silent reading as silent reading involves all the psychophysical processes as loud